Who of you feels misunderstood sometimes? And I don't mean those small little miscommunications at work, but the ones that really hurt. Your friend who thinks you're a racist because they misunderstood something you said about the police, or the family member that you now barely talk to anymore due to a stupid argument about the COVID pandemic. As often as we are misunderstood, we do the same to others. We live in the most divided and polarized society humankind has ever encountered, which makes it easy to feel like the world is full of racists, sexists, and idiots. However, I believe that if we overcome misunderstanding, we'll find that we all have more in common than we think. Together, we can build a more respectful and understanding society. A society where we listen to and learn from each other, and together turn this planet into the paradise that it could be. Due to my studies, I spent most of my time working with interdisciplinary teams. And it is not uncommon for me to have a room full of psychologists, physicists, biologists, engineers, and programmers at the same time. In those moments, it's crucial to overcome misunderstanding and to bring everyone on the same side. Along the way, I've learned that we rarely truly disagree with each other. And I've seen incredible things emerge from honest interest in other perspectives. Every disagreement is an opportunity to learn, connect, and together achieve things no one would ever dream of. But why is it that our society is more divided than ever? Ironically, in our efforts to create equality in every aspect of society, we have forgotten how valuable differences are. We have forgotten how different every individual is, and that what we believe to be true is only one of endless ways to describe reality. Everyone sees the world differently, and no one is truly right or truly wrong. Instead, we all focus on different aspects of the world and have different beliefs which shape our actions, emotions, and opinions. When we are on our own, it is easy and important to rely on what we believe to be true. We don't need to question our worldview and can be confident that it accurately describes our own little world. But the moment we step into a conversation, this becomes a problem. If we assume that the other person shares our worldview and that all of our beliefs are fundamental truths, we find it inexplainable where another opinion comes from. Desperate to find the source of disagreement, we'll start to think something must be wrong with the other person. They must have fundamentally different values. Maybe they are racist or sexist. They might just not care about human lives, or, my favorite one, they are probably stupid. Being overconfident in our own perspective, we assume that such fundamental differences are the only possible explanation for disagreement. And frustrated by the assumed mismatch in our values, we stop listening and distance ourselves. But such fundamental differences are rarely ever the reason for disagreement. And surprisingly, neither is stupidity. Instead, our worldviews differ way more than we think. We all went to different schools, grew up in different families, maybe even cultures, read different books, work in different industries, and follow other influencers on Instagram. As a result, we have largely different beliefs, and everyone's world works a little bit differently. Some people's world is ruled by politics, others by the economy or even education, and while some of us live on a spherical planet, others travel through space on a disk. As we all gathered different information throughout our lives, we draw conclusions and form opinions in a different way. And even if we agree on our underlying values and goals, we have largely different ideas how to best achieve them. A few months back, I listened to a conversation that really nicely illustrates how our background can shape our opinions. John is a doctor. He always wanted to help others, and every morning he goes to the hospital with a deep sense of purpose. Sarah, on the other hand, studies economics. She believes that businesses are what drive our world, and she wants to use that power to build a better future. Normally, they get along very, very well, but this particular argument still impacts their relationship. It was the time when COVID hit for the second time, and John explained how he's convinced a full lockdown is necessary. He knew how fragile our healthcare system is and what lung diseases, and specifically COVID, mean for elderly people, and he was sure that a full lockdown is the only possibility to prevent thousands of people dying. But Sarah disagreed. She was convinced that a full lockdown would significantly harm the economy to an extent where millions and millions of people would lose their job and income, and with it, access to shelter, food, and medical care. After a long and heated discussion, both fell into a frustrated silence. John was deeply hurt because Sarah seemed to not care about thousands of people dying. And Sarah could simply not understand how John would let millions and millions suffer from an economic crash. From an outside perspective, it is easy to see that they share the same goal. Both dedicated their lives to helping others and making this world a little bit better. They only disagree on the way to do it. John uses his extensive experience in medicine to evaluate the situation, while Sarah uses her background in economics to come to a completely different conclusion. Imagine what would be possible if they embrace those differences. John could learn from an experienced economist, and Sarah could learn everything there is to know about COVID, diseases in general, and our healthcare system. Together, they could come up with a solution that is far better and more elaborate than anything they could have come up with by themselves. Everyone you meet is an expert. They've gathered information since they were a child, and if they disagree with you, they probably know something you don't. Whether it is due to their educational background, the culture they're from, or the friends they're talking to, their unique perspective can always teach you something. And we all once know how to do this. As a child, we were on a continuous quest to understand everything. Carefully listening to every word said, we were just looking for the next question to ask. And I don't have to tell specifically parents here how annoying and even torturing it can be when a kid starts to ask, but why? We were still developing the fundamentals of our worldview and needed to understand why things are the way they are, why certain statements make sense, and what fundamental truths impact almost every aspect of our lives. But somewhere along the way, we stopped asking why. Instead, we started to explain why not. John doesn't ask why Sarah thinks the lockdown is a bad idea, and the other way around. At some point in our lives, we unconsciously decided that we know enough about the world. If someone has another opinion, we don't try to understand why they are right anymore. We don't focus on what we could learn. Instead, we stop listening and start preparing our arguments to tell them about their mistakes. If we start approaching disagreement with the curiosity of a child again, we'll find that every interaction can enrich our perspective. That most others share our underlying values and goals, and if you only ask why they think the way they do, they will share years of experience, knowledge, and insights. Next time you meet someone with another opinion, don't focus on why they are wrong. Instead, listen and try to understand why they are right. What are the pieces of information that they have and you don't? What common goals and values do you share, and how can you learn from each other? You'll find that this not only enriches your perspective, but also brings you closer together. Understanding each other better forms deeper and more honest relationships. You will be amazed how beautifully different we all are, and yet how many of our underlying values and goals are shared amongst almost everyone. Living in a society means to respect each other and to bond over the goals and values we share. But most importantly, it means to embrace, learn from, and admire the differences that make each and every one of us who we are. Listen and try to truly understand each other, and you'll be amazed how it can change all of our lives.